What's going on, everybody? Man, Mike is back with another video. Back here to talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. We pick up on Cal Kestis' journey across several different planets to essentially try to get away from Vader, right? The Empire, but also along the way trying to find a home. And he comes across a bunch of different people, friends, enemies, and surprises. One surprise that has kind of sort of divided the Star Wars community. For me, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily divided on it. I just think if you actually remove that portion and literally gave it any other way to get to this main crux of the story, I think it would have fit. I think even not having this part of the story, either period or yet, this story still would have been great. This story was great, right? Come on, it's Star Wars. I love it. I love the game despite the bugs. Right off the bat, I'm gonna give you guys, no, I'm not gonna give you my score yet. You guys are gonna have to wait for that. So from a story perspective, this is spoilers pretty much. You should have played the game by now or have gotten a great deal of play out of it. And you essentially start off with Cal being caught. It was a hoax to try to get into the Senate, basically, I won't say the Senate, but get into relatively the heart of Coruscant. You run into the Senate guy who you thought was a bad guy based off the trailers, but they hoodwinked us very well with that. And you could argue it was a little maddening because he actually could have been the villain as opposed to the villain we run into. But that happens. Cal, this is the opportunity to kind of walk you through some of Cal's abilities again. You start off pretty much where you left off with Fallen Order, having all those skills, but then you get new skills with Cal, and he is a beast. I'm talking beast mode. And because he's not stuck to any specific Jedi way, he's a little bit more loose and fast thinking in terms of being able to make decisions with no regret or to be able to just move on from it because business is business. So I definitely like that aspect of Cal. I like what they did with Cal from that perspective and his ambiguous nature as to what direction he could go, because we've seen him in his emotions, but we've also been able to see him check them and or be pure in other moments. So there's a true grayness about Cal that I appreciate, and I think that could carry over well into the third game that Respawn has essentially confirmed is coming out. We will have a super solid trilogy with this third game coming out, and I can't wait because you could argue this is the best trilogy since the OG trilogy 4, 5, and 6. Prequel trilogy was good. Of course, you can't hate on, I mean, you just can't hate on the prequel trilogy. Sequel trilogy, not that well. Maybe decent individual movies at best, but as a whole, no. The sequel trilogy, 7, 8, 9, got to go. That's a whole nother, that was an alternate universe. Let's get back to business with this Jedi series that Respawn has with Cal Kestis. Now, upon the journey, he's got a crew. You get a guy shows up named Bode. He's helping him out. He's got a daughter named Kata, I believe. He's got a crew that is basically helping, trying to leave and escape. Now that they got their information, they all pretty much get wiped out on the mission except for Bode. Bode is with him on and off for a little bit. You're on this planet called Kobo. This is pretty much the bread and butter for Respawn. The amount of depth and broadness on Kobo is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Lord have mercy. You thought Bogano was big in Fallen Order? Or you thought like, oh my Lord. Where's Miran from? Oh my goodness, Dacker? I almost said Daiquiri. That planet also is a little labyrinth-like, right? This place is so big, Kobo, it's monstrous. And I made the mistake of essentially trying to explore it ahead of time, trying to find the little nooks and crannies so that way I can come back and do it. That's a mistake in this game because there's so many different nooks and crannies and so many different abilities that you need in order to fulfill nooks and crannies that you end up getting lost trying to traverse back to find those nooks and crannies. But Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor did a great job in giving you abilities if you put the hard work in to solve and do some of the extra activities, of being granted abilities and map abilities to find all those things again. So if I were you, I think I would highly suggest maybe play through the story. And it's kind of hard to tell now in hindsight when you should when you could maybe leap off of the story and start doing side missions to get your XP, get your skill points, build your repertoire and your stances, if you were. But try to get several abilities before you explore, or just explore after you've beat the game, because the way the story is, you could argue the story is relatively short, but exploring gives you so much added activity. It's kind of like Spider-Man 2018 from that perspective. Spider-Man 2018 had a decent length story, had a lot of side missions that kind of grew with the story or added to the story and didn't take away, right? When you had the Tombstone and Taskmaster, right? And that one paintball chick or whatever her name was, she was unnecessary though. But you had those side missions. Shocker, even though he was really more or less part of the story, you had these side missions that you could do that added to the story and built it. So in a way, doing the exploration in this game adds to the story because of everything you run into. Legendary creatures. Now, you do these force tears, or force tiers, however you want to look at it. I think it's force tears. And they're all like challenges. I, in my humble opinion, wish that Respawn would have stopped like 3 or 4 tears shy of what they did, because it's 3 or 4 tears that basically make you do some of the side stuff you did all over again just within the force tear. I'll give you one example, super spoiler alert. You fight a Rancor twice in this game in 2 separate locations on Kobo, but that's how big Kobo is, because these locations are like opposite ends of Kobo. One of the tears, you have to fight these 2 Rancors at the same time. Oh, yes, I know. And the Rancor ain't no joke. If you follow my channel, I live streamed the game. It took me a lot of time to try to beat the Rancor the first time. Second time not as rough, but the first time was ridiculous. And then there's another force tear where you fight like 3 or 4 different, like 4 or 5, I think it's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 legendary creatures, but you have to fight 3 of them at the same time in another force tear. It could have did without it. I think that's where they may have dropped the ball a little bit in terms of trying to do something like that. So I definitely didn't like that. But the force tears was a neat idea nonetheless, of adding challenge and adding a different, unique take on challenges for Star Wars. It was borderline like Jedi training in certain modules. So I definitely appreciated that overall, but I just think that they should have just cut it short once they ran out of creative ideas. So again, story, bold. You guys are going through trying to find the compass to try to get to a location, because you run into this old legendary, High Republic time robot. And come to find out, there was these 2 Jedis who was part of the High Republic that found a planet that could have been a new home, that could train Jedi. This is where you run into Dagan Gera. Dagan Gera seemed like he was a good dude, but he seemed like he just slowly started losing himself to the dark side. And that was really because he felt like the Council turned on him and didn't trust him or trust this planet that they were going to run to. And forgive me, I can't think of the name of the planet right now. But this is where they were trying to go, and that's what this compass thing was. So you awaken Dagan Gera, finding him encapsulated in a Bacta tank, basically, that's in the trailer, and he was put there by his old flame, as it were, to basically protect him, but also to imprison him for the mistake he made and basically turn him to the dark side. When he finds out, because you awaken him, that the Council's gone and it's really just kind of him, he immediately bleeds his kyber crystal. What? Yes, he bleeds the kyber crystal red, and you fight him right there on the spot, one arm. Firefight. I did it well the first time, one take. That's me, all that. Say it with your chest. But then after that, he got really, really hard. You had to fight him, I think, a total of 2 more times. Both times were interesting. I would say the first time and the third time was the best time fighting him. You kind of argue, like, why did we have to fight him that many times? But you could also argue, if you're good skilled Jedi, you're not gonna beat each other. It's just gonna be, okay, somebody lost but didn't have to die, and then you get to fight again. So I think that was, I think that was unique. I just also think that this is the part of the story that didn't really have to be part of the story, maybe a side piece of the story, and we could have just did something else to push the story along instead of having Dagan Gera, some random High Republic tie-in to the story, because it could have been good without it. I think that's where I'm kind of standing on it, but I'm not mad at it at the same time. It's kind of like a unique, awkward position to be in on this game. So, of course, he's being helped out by a friend of his who's been around since the High Republic times. They basically don't really die like that. I forgot the type of species he is. He's like purple and slimy. So now that you fought him, you already ran back into greasy money. Greasy money, baby. And now you're basically about to go try to find Seer. You go to Jeddah and you try to find Seer. You find Seer, you gotta find another compass. Guess who's still alive? Cordova's still alive, baby. And he's happy to see little BD1 and you as well. You help him go find a compass on Jeddah. Jeddah's also relatively big, explorative. Good things to find there. You fight bounty hunters in this game. That was my problem. We'll get to it soon. Find a compass, and then you have to find another compass, basically. Well, yeah, that's actually the first compass. You gotta go back to Kobo and find another compass, and that's where you fight Dagan a third time. Kind of speeding through the story, but this is pretty much what it is. You fight Dagan a third time. You beat him. You take the compass. Go back to Cordova on Jeddah. And Cordova figures out the map and the puzzle to these compasses that lead to the new destination where Dagan had found that could be the new home. Clearly it's probably empty now because it's been so long and nobody essentially really went. And if they did, they weren't there for long because they were sieged or besieged by, I think it was essentially raiders. And I don't know if it's the same raider that's on Dagan's side, but it was besieged. It was attacked, and they were defeated, and so that's what happened. And then upon Seer coming back to be with the crew, Marin's here. Marin's been training and kicking it with Seer. She's uber powerful on God mode, right? I was hoping we could play with Marin a little bit, but instead, Bode turns on us. He takes the map and dips off. Cal goes after him, try to get it back. As he thinks he's about to beat Bode, Bode uses the Force and pushes. Yes, he used the Force and pushes Cal away. You're like, what? Bode's a fallen Jedi. He was in hiding since Order 66, but then basically to protect his daughter, he took a deal. He played a deal with the Empire and to do their bidding, basically to be like a low-key bounty hunter for them. And so he's got a red lightsaber. He knocks Cal out. Then you switch to playing with Seer to protect the Jeddah base with the anchorites and all that. You do that, Darth Vader shows up. And you fight Darth Vader with Seer. And Seer's actually not bad. Seer's actually kind of nice. She fights similar to Palpatine. She does a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to puncture you type of stances, but she's nice with it. Darth Vader was nice with it. Darth Vader was getting tired of her though, and finally just put the hands on her. But Seer's training, Seer's broadening of her Force capabilities is why she could kind of hang with Vader for a little bit, but Vader got her good, and that was the end of Seer. Cal felt it through the Force, tried to get there, he couldn't. So then that's the end of Seer. So Seer didn't make it. Marin and Cal's in a relationship pretty much. Kind of sped through that. They got their kissy on. And then, I don't know, they had a little overnight stay too, but they definitely got their little kissy on. And they're in a relationship. They're sad. Marin's concerned for Cal pretty much. So Cal's trying to go after Bode now. And they know where Bode's going because he had a little location tracker on him. You go try to get to him. It's an Empire base. It's an ISB base, kind of similar to like what's in Andor, right? Some bureau, little off of some little ice planet. Cal infiltrates to try to find Bode. He does find Bode's daughter after making it through there, and then upon listening to the story of Bode, Cal not happy, but then Bode tries to kind of get at Cal again. Cal gets mad, unleashes the darkness. It tells you to embrace the darkness. So his Force mode goes red and he's cut through everything. Like, he's not playing no games. He tries to get to Bode, he can't. And upon cutting through everybody, Marin shows up. Marin calms him down and says, I don't want to lose you too. And then that's what kind of calms him down. He comes back to himself. Bode escapes. But there's another path to get to the other planet. And all they had to do was find that one, which is somewhat center of the of Kobo again. You do that, you shoot up through there using the Force. Grease is driving the Mantis. You get there, you fight Bode again. Bode basically losing it, harms his daughter in the path. Cal embraces his darkness again. Cal beats him, but this time puts Bode down because Bode was about to try and put Cal down. And so they basically adopt Kata like Thor adopted Love in Thor Love and Thunder. Not as bad in this case as it was in Thor Love and Thunder, very awkward. But in this case, more appropriate, but we're just getting that a lot happening in like storytelling where the dad dies and the daughter or the child has to be adopted, usually as a daughter, by the person that took that family member out. So how does Kata react as she gets older? She seems like she's confused but understands her dad was kind of a bad guy or started doing bad guy things. So maybe she's still in shock. But for someone who just saw their dad get beat by the dude that's taking him in, you think she would have some level of reserved feelings, but it may be explored in the next game. You bury Bode, you bury Seer on the planet, and Cal just has a moment there of grief, and through the Force, Seer talks to him, saying help her to embrace her darkness, or help her through her darkness, or something like that, because Kata's gonna have some as she gets older. So story, for the most part, pretty good, relatively solid. I think we could have did without the High Republic stuff because it kind of just felt a little shoot in, but I'm not mad at it because it still gave a slight different take. Just could have been probably better as a side mission or even DLC. Very much so, Bode could have just been the bad guy, and whether or not the story leads to another planet, he could have just been the bad guy, and all could have been said well and done there. Coming to the problem I was telling y'all about, and before I do, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, the notification bells, I post my videos on my live streams, I sit back and see what's cracking. And let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, if you enjoyed Star Wars Jedi Survivor, what are some things you liked, didn't like. Are you looking forward to the third piece in this now trilogy? Comment section is open for discussion. The problem I had was the bounty hunter mission. The game was bugged severely from get-go, but thankfully I really only experienced a few bugs, and this was one of them. And then they sent out several updates since then, right? But one of the main bugs that I've ran into, two of them, was my game started crashing after all those updates started coming. My game didn't crash before the updates started coming. My game started crashing after those updates started coming. And the main bug that I'm about to talk about is the bounty hunter bug. I could not finish my bounty hunters. I had like 3 or 4 more to go through, and I couldn't finish them until they finally properly updated the game so where you could just go talk to Cage Vanda, who is the bounty hunter in this game, trying to help, and you're trying to help her take out bounties, all to, of course, surprisingly find out that she's trying to take you out. But once you make it to the end of that, Boba Fett shows up. Boba Fett shows up. Gotta say that again. Boba Fett shows up. Boba. But you don't fight him. He's there to capture the Cage. But it was dope because it's some dialogue that you get with him, and Boba and Cal essentially have a semi-truce because he was really only there on business for Cage Vanda. So that was fun. Fighting all legendary creatures was fun. Cal's lightsaber fighting was fantastic. Immaculate. The handability of the lightsabers was fire. The handability was fire. And one of the stances that grew on me over time, and one of the stances I thought I was going to love, decreased on me over time, was the blaster stance and the crossguard stance. The crossguard stance fell off of me over time because although it was cool to have that lightsaber, it just was too unwieldy for most of the fights, in my opinion. Fights were going to be long-winded fighting with that because you could really only swing once or twice, and using force attacks may have helped you in moments, but even throwing the lightsaber was time-consuming. That fell off me. I didn't really care for it as the game progressed. The blaster stance, however, I did not like it at first. I was like, this rinky-dink fencing style is getting on my nerves. Give me my single stance back, because that was really my favorite stance, the single stance. Like the dual wield is fire. Of course, double bladed is fire. And that kind of grew on me too over time, switching between the double bladed and the blaster stance. But the reason why the blaster stance started growing on me is because as you get used to using the stance, you understand the value of the blaster while swinging a lightsaber. Fencing actually works for this stance, and you get upgrades when you take out bounty hunters where you can add some type of charge shot ability, a trick shot or a ricochet shot or just a supercharged shot. And once you incorporate that with the style, you get more attacks in, you can break guards more, you can do more damage faster. So that stance definitely helped out taking out the rest of those force tears I was telling you about before, but they also come in handy taking out bosses in the game. Specifically, once you play New Game Plus or New Journey Plus. New Journey Plus, you get additional abilities that do way more damage to the counterpart, including bosses, but then you also take the same level of damage. You can beat a boss in like 4 seconds. That's how fast you can beat a boss, because of how much health more realistic it is fighting with a lightsaber or getting blasted. It takes out like more realistic health. And I'm talking about fighting the ninth sister. What is her name? Was it oh man, I had it. I think it starts with, is it Mal? I can't remember. I had it off the top of my head. But fighting her in this game again in the beginning, it was like 4 attacks. That's all I needed, and that fight was over. Boss was beat. Super solid from that perspective. I really enjoyed that aspect of New Journey Plus. The only downside is it was harder to fight a group of enemies than it was just to fight one. That's the only thing that really hurt using those new skills for New Journey Plus. And that's why I didn't really finish my New Journey Plus. I'm like halfway through it. Trying to fight groups of people is unnecessary now. You're better off, if not using the blaster stance, using the double bladed stance, because you can deflect way more blaster fire with the double bladed stance, and you just have more range to handle the group. Dual wield is cool, but double bladed is gonna work with those, increased damage, abilities activated for New Journey Plus. So all in all, Jedi Survivor, fire game, held back by bugs. Therefore, my score for this game is like a 9 out of 10, or 4.5 out of 5, because of the bugs. If the bugs were not there, this game probably would have easily been a 9.5 to a 10 out of 10. But those bugs held it back, and that's one of the things that pretty much held Fallen Order back too. Was the game just must not have been as ready to go on at launch. They were meeting some quota or something, and it got rushed out. And it happened again here with Survivor. I think that's a problem we won't see with Spider-Man 2 in the future. And hopefully they learn the lessons from the first 2 games for the 3rd Jedi game to complete this trilogy. The game drops with less flaws. And for a game that only dropped on one console for the most part in terms of next gen, or now current gen, which is PS5 and Xbox Series, there shouldn't have been that many bugs, to be honest. And this is where Insomniac is a beast. Right? Insomniac, man, they don't play with the polish on their games. They really don't. And so hopefully Respawn learns from that for the 3rd game. But those are my thoughts on Jedi Survivor. 9 out of 10. Solid game. Go pick it up. Go play. Go play again. The replayability is pretty high for this game, no matter what difficulty and what skills you're using. Just playing around that world with the lightsaber and taking on challenges is pretty fire. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, the notification bell, so it's my videos on my live stream. So I always sit back, check, see what's cracking. And again, let me know down in the comment section below what y'all think about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. The comment section is open for discussion. But your man Mike is signing out. To the next video, a live stream. Wait for it and keep it gaming.